Hey everyone! The historical fiction picture book that I decided to read for this week is The Moon Over Star. It was written by Diana Hutz Aston and pictures done by Jerry Pinkney. The story is about a girl and her family who watched the very first landing on the moon. So the story takes place in 1969. We see non-fictional characters mentioned such as Neil Armstrong, Edwin Aldrin Jr., Michael Collins, and John F. Kennedy. The main character mentions how John F. Kennedy had stated that in years to come, men would land on the moon, and the character just, she thinks of him from time to time, saying how if he would have seen this, he would have been really proud. So, this book actually won the Coretta Scott King Honor Award, which is pretty awesome. When I first looked at this book, I looked on Amazon. I wanted to get a feel for looking at the images before reading it, or in this case, listening to a read aloud. So the first thing I did was look at the cover, which you guys are seeing right now. And in this cover picture, I see the moon and I see our main character. And to me, it looks like she's thinking, or maybe dreaming. She's having a lot of thoughts, and maybe about going to the moon, something of that nature. That was my first thought when I saw this cover. I also thought, the moon over star. I wonder if the character's name is Star. Turns out that's not the case. That's just the town that she lived in. So, moving on to the next feature, I started noticing that all of the pictures in this book did not have any white around the pictures. So when we talked about our framing, the lecture mentioned how when there's no white space at all, you kind of feel like as if you're a part of the story, which I did. The entire time I was listening to the read aloud, I really felt like I was, in the story, not just listening to it. So we see each of the pictures. There are no white spaces around. And then this brings me to the next feature. So we talked about character-reader relationship, demand and offer. When there's demand, we have a character looking directly at the reader. So in this book, we do not have any illustrations where that is happening. The characters are always either looking at each other, or in this instance, they're kind of looking off in the direction of the moon. In this little picture right here, in this illustration, they are actually pretending to be Neil Armstrong, blasting off to the moon. So I thought that was really cool. Our main character, she's the one who is pretending to be Neil Armstrong. I made the decision that this book was the type of historical fiction that this book is the fiction based on research. I actually did my own research on the author and just, the background on this book. I tried to find the author's note, but I just was having difficulties. But I learned that this book is actually kind of a nod to Mae Jemison, who was the first African-American woman to land on the moon. And that kind of brings me to my next feature, where we talked about critical analysis and whose point of view is being represented. In this book, we have the young girl whose view is being represented, where the whole time she is seeing, she's seeing these astronauts such as Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin land on the moon, and it just gets her thinking about how she would like to do it. And so I think that's really cool that the author, made a nod to Mae Jemison. Now, the character is a different age than Mae would have been at this time. Mae was born in 1956, and our character in this book is born in 1961. So the age is a little off, but the feelings that are associated with that moon landing are very similar. I did some research on Jemison just to, kind of see how fact-based this book really was. And although the age is a bit different, she definitely was inspired by that moon landing. So I think that this book is a really awesome book to, share with our students, to, talk about these different things in history that we may not have been a part of, but when we see the view of this young girl who saw this for the first time and, thought about, dreams and stuff and was just so inspired. And then we see another point of view in the book from her grandfather, who he sees the entire, he sees, that it's a waste of money to spend all this money on space to go to the moon when there are people who need help right on Earth. And I'm sure that there are plenty of people who have shared these views in the past and even today. Her grandfather is a farmer. So we see those views from him, but he doesn't take away from her inspiration. He encourages her to dream, and even shares with her the first time that he ever saw an airplane. So I think that's really cool. Going back to that character-reader relationship, I just wanted to point out in this illustration, every character is kind of looking up, except for the mom. She's handing them something, but everyone's kind of looking up at the moon, except for the grandfather. He looks like he's looking at something close to Earth. So I think that kind of solidifies his belief in, he doesn't want any part of what's going on up there. But this was a really good book. I listened to it more than once. And I would definitely recommend anyone who is interested to go ahead and read it, see how you like it. Thanks.